Okay, well.
Because you have to feel comfortable in the space.
I don't. You think my couch is comfortable? Absolutely not. It just looks fucking beautiful. Are you reading the notes or no? You're just gone rogue.
I like going rogue. Dank.
Small. Dank?
Dark dank. Yeah.
No, I think dank is different now.
What do you think of dank?
Dank is like, dude, that shit's dank.
It's good?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? No,
Yeah.
I don't think
No,
so.
I think
Dank
so.
is bad.
Like, that's some dank weed.
No, dark and dank.
No, like, millennials fucking eat that shit up. They love it. I feel some sarcasm coming over
No,
here.
there's no sarcasm.
You know I'm a better designer than you are.
Bitch. Are we gonna have like a jingle? You know, a BnBitches jingle. Did you know, BnBitches makes you riches.
I'm Connor Ashley.
And I'm Carla Chavis.
We're the mother-son real estate and design duo. What it's like to own an Airbnb property, what it's like to run one, how to run one, where you need to go from here, and also talk about the design aspect of it.
We are here to help you invest in properties.
Real estate business and design. Now, you can make a lot of money doing this.
We're your people. We are your bitches, actually.
Hey everyone, I'm Connor Ashley.
I'm Carla Chavis.
And this is the BnBitches Podcast.
Where BnBitches makes you riches.
Brings you riches.
Brings you
riches. We've done this 4 times. It's brings you riches.
a whole 4 times.
Well, you'd think you'd get it at some point here. So if you don't know who we are the real estate. I'm just going to take this over because you fucked it up the last 3 podcasts, okay? Is that all right? Great. If you don't know who we are the real estate and design mothers. Oh, I fucked it up. Alrighty, if you don't know who we are.
Throwing stones.
This is going to be a long fucking podcast. If you don't know who we are the mother-son real estate and design duo, BnBitches.
BnBitches, that's B, the letter B, the letter N, bitches.com.
Yep. And you can check us out on our website and on all social media. We offer rental consulting, design services, and hosting. And
co-hosting, whatever you need. Start
We're
to
there
finish,
for you.
we'll help you out.
Alrighty, so let's get into today's podcast. Today we're going to be talking about designing for your space. Now, what essentially that means is, I'm not going to walk into a, I don't know, a modern mansion and start putting antiques inside of it.
Exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So designing for your space. Let's get started. Take it away.
Well, first of all, I think when you're designing your space, you need to kind of figure out what you're working with and what your goals are.
What your budget is as well.
That's going to be a big factor in what you decide and the direction you need to go. But I think also you need to figure out kind of what feels good to you. Design is a lot about feeling. I mean, really, it's what feels good.
And what looks good. It's all about look.
I think it's feel more than look myself.
Okay, well.
Because you have to feel comfortable in the space.
I don't. You think my couch is comfortable? Absolutely not. It just looks fucking beautiful. It's not comfortable, but it looks great.
I, on the other hand, would prefer to be comfortable and not have it look good.
And I guess that's where we meet in the middle. So, get the best of both worlds here with BnBitches if you choose our interior design services.
You'll be comfortable and look good.
So I guess we'll just talk a little bit about our properties and how we design them and sort of what we decided once we saw the properties.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, take it
You have the fucking notes, so you go ahead and take it away.
I think that with our properties, frankly, we didn't really...
Are you reading the notes or no? You're just gone rogue.
I like going rogue. I think that, first of all, you've got to figure out the space you're working with. And so it really depends. Let's just take the one in my home to start, okay? It's a basement apartment. When you hear basement, what do you think?
Dark.
Dank.
Small. Dank?
Dark, dank. Yeah.
No, I think dank is different now.
What do you think of dank?
Dank is like, dude, that shit's dank.
It's good?
Yeah, I think
really?
so.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think
No,
so.
I think
Dank
so.
is bad.
Like, that's some dank weed.
No, dark and dank.
No, like dank weed,
No.
like marijuana.
No, I don't think so.
I think so.
All right, well, whatever.
Anyway, it's small, cozy, dark. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's small, it's dark, and I think one of the things that a goal for me as the owner was, how can I make this bright and happy and feeling bigger? Those were my goals going into designing that property.
And, you know, you take a look at the space and decide what you need to change and how your design will change it to make it, you know, better.
Exactly. to reach those goals,
Right,
really.
exactly.
And that's kind of what, and I mean, honestly, the first thing that we decided to do was change out the light fixtures, because that really added light.
Brightness.
Yeah, light makes bright. And
Light makes bright.
Light-
Yes, it does. Thank you.
and makes the
Wow.
appearance of things being brighter and bigger, really.
And happier.
And
lighter.
yeah.
And more
happier.
open and all that bullshit.
Yep. And that's why we changed those light fixtures out, but we also added the sort of risky move of painting a wall seafoam green. I mean, I think that was a risky move, a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Instead of having them all white.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was. But I think with your place, you know, it's marketed as this cozy, adventurous little place to stay. You know, it's definitely more homey than some of our other properties we've worked on. It has that more homey little touch. And I think adding that seafoam, lighter colored, mind you, accent wall works well for it, because it makes it feel more homey. But it was a risk. It was a risk, because we could have risked closing off and making the space feel smaller.
Yep. But going with that brighter color, the hope was to brighten, and it did. I think it did achieve that.
I think it did as well.
Yeah.
One thing that we did in yours is, you know, so window wells are gross, and you have those in a basement
ugly.
apartment. They're ugly, they're dingy. They add to that sort of cramped, small, gross,
Dark,
dank feel.
Yes.
So what we did was we went in there, completely cleaned it out. It was fucking awful.
Yep.
But
And I think that was really the most important step in designing that little window well, is cleaning it out. And when we say cleaned it out, all of the, you know,
It took hours.
It took hours. The window well itself is aluminum, and we literally wiped that down from top to bottom. Any cobweb or spider or anything got cleaned off for sure.
Then what we did was we added some white rocks to sort of brighten it up, but we still wanted to make it feel natural for the space. You know, you're not gonna see a fucking, you know, it's not gonna have, I don't know where I'm going. You want to make it feel natural for the space. It's outdoors, so you're gonna decorate it to look like it's outdoors. You know, so you put in the white water rock or river rock or whatever. You know, you put in succulents. You put in colorful, bright flowers and hanging wall succulents and air plants and different things like that to make it seem bright and, you know, lush. You know what I mean? Instead of the opposite, which was dark and dank.
Yeah, and it really was not very pleasing to the eye, and it's one of the first things you see when you walk into that room. So it was really important to me that when they walked in, they saw something at least pleasing to the eye. And most of the time, if I ever escort a guest in there, which isn't often, but I have done it before, that's the first thing and it's usually a pleasant little, you know, surprise, and they, you know, comment on how pretty it is.
You know, as I was saying, I think we sort of handcrafted your furniture again to feel more homey and more like, you know, a cozy place that people can feel like home, like a home away from home.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, one thing is also you're going to design for your clients, you know, in the area that property is in. You know, the clientele might be a little older, shifting.
Sure.
Than, you know, right in the middle of the city, like some of our other ones.
Yeah.
And so we're going to design it to fit that clientele.
Yep. You got to design for not just the space, not just the goals of the property owner, but the guests that you are trying to attract as well, I think is what you're trying to say. So you got to be mindful of all of those factors when designing that space.
And how much do you think that altogether just for that property was spent for the furnishing?
Downstairs?
In the design. It's a one bedroom apartment, one bedroom, one bathroom apartment.
Right.
600 square feet, 700.
Oh, $550.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much do you think? A couple thousand?
Yeah.
Two?
Oh, yeah.
2,000?
Yep.
So, we didn't splurge. We didn't, buy the most expensive items. We fit it for the space and for the pricing that we know we can garner on that property.
Absolutely. Right.
Yours was Adventure Stay.
Right. The name of my property is called the Adventure Stay. Whenever you run a short-term rental property, you generally give it a name, and it's in the title of your property, but
that's sort of our name for it. So we have this other one that we just worked on a few months ago called Vibrant Eclectic Condo. I'm just going to say Vibrant Eclectic. And the space in and of itself, it's a one-bedroom apartment that has modern updates, but it still feels a little dark, feels a little dingy. It's on the second floor, so it's not getting the best light exposure. It has some brick accent walls. Although it does have those modern touches, it definitely has a more underground kind of feel.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
would
I mean?
say definitely more.
And so with that one, we definitely needed to keep the design and the furnishings modern, but maybe brighten it up a bit, and make it a little funky and a little different, because the property itself is a little different, And again, the clientele for that property is a little bit younger, swinging, because it's in the middle of the city, essentially.
Correct.
So I know one of our things that we wanted to do was add as much color as we could while still staying consistent. So we have these pops of color along with these white and these black undertones.
Yep. Sort of gray, white, black
blue
undertones.
And then pops of blue, green, and a little bit of red or orange.
Yellow.
Yep.
As well is in there.
And so that sort of gave it that vibrant, eclectic feel. And we use the term eclectic because a lot of the furnishings and design that we're getting is stuff that we've DIY'd ourselves, stuff that we've found and refurbished, and different things like that that have our own sort of personal touch on them. So they're going to have a more eclectic feel.
One of the things we do is search out inexpensive furnishings, and if we see a good deal, we snatch it up at that time, whether we need it or not. And we have a storage unit where we keep all of our things because we know that at some point we may acquire a property that it makes sense for.
Yep.
And
or we may be helping a client that it makes sense for.
Exactly.
And I think one thing that we look for when snatching up those inexpensive items is maybe something that we can add our own personal touch to.
Right. So even though it may not look great on paper or right when we get it, we look at it and think, I don't know. We'll take it if it's a good enough deal, really, we will. And knowing that we can always add our own touch to it later on and make it fit our space. Fit it
for the space, exactly.
Exactly.
And we may, hold on to a chair for a few months until that space comes around that it fits.
Yep.
So, again, with the Vibrant Eclectic property that we have, we sort of just had that whole flow throughout it, that colorful, vibrant, bright, whimsical, but still modern, because it is a modern property, but we just liven it up a bit with these sort of funky furnishings.
Yep. I say yeah.
Great. Thanks for saying yeah. Great. I really needed your validation.
Such a great addition to that. All right, let's move on to our another one, the one that you furnished all by yourself.
And I did good.
You did. Trendy Bohemia.
I feel some sarcasm coming over here.
There's no sarcasm.
You know I'm a better designer than you are. We're going to move on now to our Trendy Bohemia. Now, this property has those sort of modern touches, but it does have that lofty, grungy kind of feel with some brick accents. It's a little more bright, a little more open already. So one thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to complement that sort of grungy type of bohemian feel that it already had. So I know the people booking it, are going to want a trendy bohemian apartment because
that's the name.
Well, yeah. Gee, thanks. Jesus.
Had to get a word in there.
Anyway, so what I did was I added a lot of fake
dirt.
Shut the fuck up. I added a lot of foliage and plants and greenery along with very neutral tones. Neutral, modern, slick designs, neutral tones, whites, grays, blacks. That's about it, really. There's nothing vibrant, nothing poppy about it other than the plants. The plants, the foliage, that greenery I wanted to come out because, it already had that sort of lofty bohemian feel, and I just sort of amplified that with the furnishings and adding crystals in there. Millennials fucking eat that shit up. They love it. So you just add in a few crystals, add in some...
And they're booking like crazy.
They are! I mean, that is probably one of our more successful properties.
Yeah, I would say.
And that just goes hand in hand. Also, all of our properties, all of the ones that we've discussed, are a little on the smaller side. So we're buying smaller furniture, a queen bed, just the obvious. Don't buy a fucking king bed that's going to take up the entire space. But with that property, it was just complementing the modern accents with modern, slick furniture, but then, heightening that bohemian trendy sense with that foliage.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Keeps things natural too, which I really like about that place as well. I think most people appreciate that.
Do you? Gee, thanks. But again, we're marketing for we're designing for the space and for the clientele. So I know that one, especially because of the name and because of the way it looks, I'm going to even try to market it to a younger crowd than any of our other ones, just because of the way it looks and what I had to work with. It's going to be marketed towards that even younger millennial generation. Mm-hmm. And, knowing what that sort of design-wise looks like, that's what I went for in that space.
For sure.
So, and I think it's, like you said, it's not just designing for the space, it's for designing for who's going to book it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or figuring out what your niche person who is going to book it a lot, and designing for that person.
And I think that's one of the things that, as a entity, we can really help people decide, because I think what happens to a lot of property owners is they're very connected to their properties, and they want to design it as if they're going to be living there, and that may not necessarily, it probably isn't the best.
I mean, look at your house. It's fucking ugly as fuck. Your furnishings are awful.
They are not.
She likes them. Again, I don't know that this would be great for an Airbnb, at least at its current level of design.
Well, it's not.
Exactly.
Airbnb right now. So it works for us because it's comfortable. And that was one of our goals. However, my point being, I think a lot of property owners would want to furnish something as if they were going to live there. Right. And that's really one of the detriments to, I think, what happens. You're going to have a great place. It's going to be furnished the way you would like it. But guess what? You're not staying there. Yeah. So you need to figure out really who your target market is, as well as the property itself and who you think it's going to attract. And there's again lots of different ways.
Blew it in your face.
Lots of different ways that we can get to that data, because it's really important to know and kind of nail it down to who exactly will be renting that property out, so we can really market directly to that person. Like, we're reaching out and grabbing them and pulling them in. I mean, that's what we want to do.
And it's just as easy as that. You can do that with the interior, with the design.
Absolutely.
That's the first impression that they get when they book your place.
Aside from the name.
Right. Aside from the name, which goes hand in hand with the design.
Absolutely.
Those photos are what's going to either attract them or deter them. And you might want to deter a specific guest, so you're going to design it to deter that guest. Absolutely. And you might want to attract another guest, so you're going to design it to attract that guest.
Yep. So we'll move on to Vintage Cottage, which, has sort of a old sounding connotation to it, but how
it is old as shit.
It came about simply because some of the furnishings that we were able to acquire for this particular space, it had a real vintage, eclectic feel to it. Yeah. And I think that really set the tone for the rest of the design in that space.
And well, also, I mean, let's be honest, there's nothing modern about the actual property.
No.
The kitchen's not modern. Nope. It's not very updated.
Nope.
It's kind of,
boring.
Basic. Yeah. It's basic.
Basic, boring.
And a little old. It is a little older, because clearly it was designed quite a few years ago.
Yep, the property itself, the building itself, nothing's been updated in quite some time.
Correct. So we acquired that furniture with that in mind, that, you know, how are we gonna, because we're still in that market where that younger clientele is gonna be booking for the most part. So how are we still gonna market to them without having these modern furnishings, you know? We use the furniture in a way and use the space in a way to still market it to that younger demographic.
Even though it's a less updated, less modern space.
Correct.
We still wanted to attract a younger clientele because we know we're in the city center and that's primarily what it's gonna attract. And how do we do that in...
And so primarily we were finding very cute vintage furniture and spicing it up a bit and, you know, editing our photos and attracting the guests in a way that made it look sort of that vintagey feel to it, you know. And I think by adding on Cottage onto the name, you know, I mean, we have those aspects that you would typically see in sort of like a little cottage, you know, and that makes it seem a little more homey.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, anything you can do to add homey touches, cozy, you know, feel, people are going to appreciate that, because when they come to an Airbnb or a short-term rental versus a hotel, they are looking for that homey feel.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in that cold environment that you can't flip off your shoes and turn on the TV and kind of relax for an evening. Yeah.
Well, and that's what we strive to do, you know, as designers, and when we're designing properties and helping clients design their Airbnb properties or even their personal properties, you know, it's just about creating that home environment, that home feel.
Right, where you feel at home, because that might vary from person to person.
Exactly. But you want to catch as many people in that clientele that you can.
Absolutely.
So you need to make it basic enough to catch all those people, but still niche enough to get those people that you're targeting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this was a great podcast today.
Yeah, it was. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much for checking out, or thank you so much for listening to another BnBitches podcast. As always, you can always go to BnBitches.com for all of our services.
That's the letter B, the letter N, bitches.com.
Yep. It's BnBitches.com, or you can check us out on social media at BnBitches or on Twitter at the BnBitches, and head over to our YouTube. We have a weekly show on there. It's just BnBitches. Make sure to subscribe to us there as well. And if you are listening to our podcast and you're a first-time listener, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast or follow it if you are on SoundCloud. Yeah, I guess that's about it for today, right?
That's it. Wraps it up for today.
Alrighty, guys.
In the books.
Well, we will see you guys next week, and just keep being bitches.
Bye-bye.